Yes. People get to know now we are in Zoom, so they are coming. Everything it is a new person. Yes, we can just start, Jens. Maybe you can just sit a little bit. Do you hear me well?
A little bit what?
Okay. What about now? Do you hear me well now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Everyone, welcome to this evening's program. Tonight, we move from Clubhouse to YouTube and Zoom. Now we are live in YouTube, but we are in Zoom. Our guest is Honorable Jens Wilhelmsen. He is a friend of mine. As you see, he is also one of many fathers I have. God gave me. Jens, I have known him 16 years now.
Oh.
He have been in my life 16 years. Only just it is not only the name, but he really have been in my life 16 years. And I'm appreciate that. And I hope you will be still in many, many years. And Jens, he wrote this book, and it calls Eyewitness to the Impossible, Building Trust on Three Continents. He will tell us about those three continents, what happened, and why he used to read this book. But first, can you tell a little bit when you started this work?
I started this work in 1947. You know, I was in the Norwegian underground fighting the German occupants. Germany occupied Norway for 5 years in the Second World War. I was just a young man, but the last 6 months of the war, I was part of the underground fighting the Germans. So I was quite bitter about the Germans. And we then, in May 1945, Germany capitulated, and we thought, now a wonderful peace has come, now we have a great future. And then 3 months after peace came, the atom bomb fell on Hiroshima and Nagasaki and wiped out 2 cities. And at the same time, we could see the shadow of the Cold War coming up between Russia, Soviet Union, and the West. And it looked like here is the beginnings of another war, and with atom bombs. So I was very, very discouraged. And I just decided I would focus on myself and forget the world. And that was when somebody said to me, if you want to have a better world, you must start with yourself. That was in 1947. And that's when I...
Maybe you can tell us a little bit how do you started as a young boy? You started you go from school and you go to the wall. How do you started? When you started? Who was with you?
When I went into the underground.
Yeah, not in the underground, but after. When you started the reconciliation and peace building.
Yes. Well, then I got this idea, if you want to have a better world, you must start with yourself. And then I got an invitation to come to Germany in 1948. And Germany was the country in the world which I absolutely didn't want to go to. But I decided to start with myself and to start healing the wounds which the war had left. I should go to Germany. So I lived in Germany, in the industrial part of Germany, from 1948 till 1953. And I lived in dozens and dozens of German homes, and I learned to respect the Germans as I respect my own nation. That was the big change that came in.
But how was it? Like you were Norwegian, you were in Germany, your family, what did they think? Was it okay for the family that you are in Germany?
Yeah, I think they were not sure what to think. I think at first they were skeptical. They thought I ought to be in Norway and continue my studies. And I had broken off my studies. I was studying something called philology, and I had stopped it and gone to Germany. I think they were skeptical. Then little by little they understood that the healing of the wounds of the past, which we were working on in Germany, was important. And then they respected it and they came to visit me in Germany.
Okay. But when you live in Germany, did you marry there?
Married?
Yeah.
No. I married a Swiss, not a German.
Okay. But when did you start the Moral Army and what was it?
That was after the war. As I said, I was so disillusioned about the peace because of the atom bomb and because of the Cold War. And two of my uncles who were working with moral rearmament saw my disillusionment and they wanted to give me some hope. So they said, if you go to an international conference in Switzerland, we will pay everything, journey, stay, and everything. And so I wasn't interested in the conference, but I was interested in Switzerland. So I went. But at this conference, I discovered this simple thing of starting with yourself. And it was a turning point in my life.
Oh, thank you. And Khalid, did you hear me?
Sorry?
Can you speak now? Wait, I'm talking to another person.
Oh.
Kali, you say the iPhone is Kali. So now, can you open your mic? Or I will close again. Okay. Okay. Jens, what you can do is, can you just take your book and just they start to the end? Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Thank you. You started your history and you will end. So you will choose what you want to tell us up from the book.
Then I didn't understand that. I should tell you about the book.
Yeah. What is in the book?
Ah, well, this is a book called Eyewitness to the Impossible, Building Trust on Three Continents. And what I experienced on those three continents was first in Europe, the reconciliation between France and Germany. And Germany and France were Europe's arch enemies. They fought 3 wars against each other within 100 years. In 1870 something, the first, in 1914, the second, and in 1939, the third. And there was deep bitterness between those two countries. And then after the war, they went together to start the European Union and submitted their national decisions to a supranational body and became the pioneers of unity in Europe after the war. So that was a great thing I experienced. And then from Germany, I went to Japan. And as you know, Germany and Japan were allies in the Second World War. They were the two people who fought together against China. Japan occupied great part of China, the Philippines, Korea, and there was a lot of hatred of Japan abroad in Asia. And I experienced the same thing there as with France and Germany, that there was reconciliation and they started to work together. First of all, between Philippines and Japan. That's what, and this is two of the main points in the book is this story, these stories.
Okay, thank you. And I will ask somebody to take over. Just wait a minute. reer Saciid mudka ka soo bax sa ii caawisid.
Hello?
No?
Yeah.
My mother,
si fiican ku maqla adeer adiga su'aalaha sii wad insha Allah wax yar maaragtay Hiroshima iyo Japan markii la tagay buu joogaa xoogaa yar.
what shall I will. You just call me here.
Take over in English. Jens,
Oh.
now Saeed Chama is in the room and he
Yes.
will ask the questions from now on.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Can you hear me, Professor?
I can hear you.
Well, I also was following exactly what you said about the 100 years of war between France and Germany, and
Yes.
how later they became the pioneers of the European Union, pioneers of
Yes.
realizing the European Union. This
Right.
is absolutely miraculous measures. What I would like to ask, Professor, is since the book will be read and it's very interesting, absolutely, but for our program, I would like to ask a pertinent question, which is useful for the audience. And which
Sorry,
is
what was the question? The audience?
the pertinent question for the audience is, could you tell us the first reconciliation meeting between France and Germany?
Yes.
The first one, could you highlight a bit that aspect?
Yes. Well, in Switzerland, from my angle in Switzerland, there is a big conference center by Lake Geneva. And the first Germans who were invited there was in 1947. And there they met the French, and through the years that followed, about 8,000 Germans came to this conference center in Switzerland. And there they met the French, and some very moving reconciliation took place. So that is how it started.
I get that point. Could you at this? Yes, I hear you, Professor. Continue.
Sorry?
I hear you well. You see, that's how it started in Switzerland.
Yes.
What I want to ask, apart from the Swiss hosts, the Swiss country, Switzerland being the host country, and the Germans and the French coming together, has there been any other body, like for instance, the United Nations or any other body that has also played a role in promoting this reconciliation process?
I'm sure others worked at the same thing, but what I will stick to what I experienced myself.
Yes.
When I lived in Germany from 1948 till 1953.
Uh-huh.
And I experienced in 1949 how a French politician who was the general secretary of the Socialist Women of France, how she came to Germany and traveled from city to city and apologized because she had hated the Germans so much. Her son was tortured by the Germans in the war, and she hated them, but she's realized in this conference in Switzerland that you cannot build a new future on hate. And she went to Germany from city to city, all German radio stations. She asked forgiveness for her hatred. And that was one of the fundamental beginnings of the reconciliation.
That's very clearly understood that one of the cornerstones of reconciliation is to remove hatred.
Yes.
As the basis, as the most fundamental basis. That's number one. And the other thing is to get in touch with the people, to meet your enemies wherever they are, and to meet them, talk to them, and
Yes.
see. And the third point, which is absolutely driven home and which was useful for the audience to learn and hear, is that the future cannot be built on hatred.
No, that's right.
Now, Professor, can we move to the second point, to the other,
yes, yes.
To number 2, which is the Asian side? That's
yes.
Japan, the role of Japan during
yes.
the war and the enemies it created amongst the Asian countries like Philippines, Indonesia, India, etc. And then
China
China
was occupied by Japan in the Second World War.
China was occupied mainly. That was China and then Philippines, etc. Could you also tell us a little bit about the meeting between the Philippines and the Japanese?
Yes. I was for a conference in the Philippines, in Manila and outside Manila, where the president of the Japanese parliament also participated, and delegates from Korea. You know, Japan occupied Korea in 1905. So Korea was integrated in Japan. They were not allowed to speak their own language. They had to learn Japanese. And Japan tried to integrate Korea as just one more Japanese province up till the Japanese defeat in 1945. So at this conference in the Philippines were also Koreans. And the head of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Korean Parliament, and also the president of the Philippines, met these people and heard of what had happened and of the new conviction to build unity. And the result was real cooperation between Japan and the Philippines after that conference.
Thank you very much, Professor. To you, Lul, dear, please take over. Is it to do with me?
I'm taking over. I'm trying to find the video. So thank you, Elset. And Jens, can you tell about Frank Bookman and how he started this organization?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, he was the head of a board. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I do, but I will mute other side of mute.
So just a second.
Okay. قالي هدرتان ما هذا كرتا. Co-host tahay, so I don't know what's going on. Jens, you can continue, please.
Yes. Well, Frank Bookman was the head of a boarding school for poor boys, where they got lodging and food and everything. And one day the directors of the board of this school decided to cut down on the expenses for the boys. And Frank Bookman felt that was so inconsiderate of those people on the board to cut down on money for those poor boys that he resigned. And he got very bitter against that board, members of the board. And he went to the doctor because the bitterness affected his health. And the doctors recommended that he should go to Europe on a trip and try to forget about it. So he went to Europe, and he was a Christian. So in a place in Britain, he went to church. And there he had a vision where he suddenly realized that those members of the board were wrong, but he was wrong because he had let bitterness into his heart. So he wrote, can you hear me? So
I just continue, Jens. I will tell you if your voice is not here. So
okay.
Just continue.
So he wrote a letter to the members of the board and apologized for his bitterness. And he said, I was another wrong man. And that was the beginning of the change, which made him start his work to answer bitterness in the world and between nations. That was the beginning.
In the chat, ask it, what motivates you to be to start to be part of the reconciliation part?
Of course, I felt so hopeless at the end of World War II and didn't see how to start or make a contribution to build something better. And then I met this organization called Moral Rearmament, who said, the best place to start if you want to have a better world is with yourself. And they recommended seeing your life in the light of 4 absolute moral standards, which are in all the great religions: absolute honesty, absolute purity, absolute unselfishness, and absolute love. So I wrote down those 4 standards on 4 pieces of paper, and I noted under each standard where I had not lived them. And it led to my being honest with my father about some points where I had lied to him, cheated him about money, and it led to me seeing that my bitterness of Germany was wrong. And when I then, 2 years later, got an invitation to come to Germany, I thought, this is my chance to make restitution for my wrong attitude. And I lived for 5 years in Germany from 1948 till 1953.
What I want to ask you is, in your book, you are talking about after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, you are in Japan, and everyone is thinking Germany is not part of Europe or the world. Japan is not part of us. We don't want to have Japan. We do not want to have Germany. So how was it to go a place everyone in the world saying we don't want to have?
I didn't understand your question.
How was it for you? Because you are from Europe, you are going to Japan, and Japan is excluded from the world.
Yes, yes.
How was it for you and the people you met?
Yes. Well, of course, I could tell the Japanese how I used to hate the Germans and how I had got a completely new respect for them and love for them when I lived in Germany for 5 years just after the war. And I went to Japan together with a German who I had stayed in his home in Germany, and together we could talk about the past and how Germany and Norway and Germany and France, how we had left the past behind and forgiven each other and started to work together. So that was an encouragement to do the same in Asia.
I understand. Do you have been in Africa then, in that time or after?
Yeah, later. I was in Africa in the beginning of the 60s. I was never in Somalia, I regret to say, but I was in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, in Burundi, in Tanzania, and in the Congo. But it was a short visit, just half a year.
Why did you go to Africa? Why?
I went there with a group of German coal miners who were invited to South Africa because apartheid was at its worst at that time. Verwoerd was prime minister, and there were some Africans and some white South Africans who hoped that Germans could tell something to the South Africa, but not last to the white people, of following a wrong idea and changing and following a different course. So I was invited to go there together with these 5 German coal miners and tell about the story in South Africa. And we were in South Africa for about 3 months, traveling all over the country.
Okay, somebody is asking you a question.
Yeah.
And the question is, what do you recommend to those that are experiencing today that suffering, the crossfire between the greedy wall and the boar?
The greedy word, what did you say?
Wait a minute, I will go back to the... Jeg tror det spør liksom verden vi lever i dag. Hva vil du fortelle folk som lever i dag samme måte, og som isolerer hverandre, og som ikke er sammen, og som det er mange fattige som blir undertrykte, og så er det liksom, folk bruker de grådige som da grådige, som da bare forsyner seg.
Yeah.
Men du svarer English.
I think we need to decide what kind of future we want.
Oh, the person, Jens, the person who asked it, the word they say, the superpower. Today is superpower, and the poor people.
Yes. Yes. The superpowers are, if you think that way, it is America and Europe and China. And in the past, history shows that superpowers who compete with each other for predominance end up fighting wars against each other. So we must, into this situation now, introduce some completely new elements to have reconciliation and build up trust and build up teamwork. And there's only one way to do it, I think. That is to start dealing with your own faults and weaknesses instead of pointing your finger at your neighbor and demanding that he should deal with his faults. So I have seen this in practice, both in Europe, in Asia, and in Africa, that this approach of dealing with your own side and own weaknesses first and apologizing is a road which creates unity across all barriers. And that is the kind of world I see and hope for through the next years to come.
The second question is, I will also read, people is writing questions. What would you advise to those who are still feeding hatred in between the society?
What I would advise them to do who are still hatred.
Yeah.
That's the question. Yeah.
That's the question. People who already are making other people to just hate. They only live for the hate. What would you say to them?
I think the first thing is to admit to yourself that you hate. We tend to give hate other names. We think it's the other side which has been so bad. But I think the first step to getting rid of hate is to admit that what you feel to the other person is hate, and that hate is wrong, and to apologize for it, because hate is a very destructive and divisive force. And it's these things in human nature which you have to put a name to and then decide to throw them out. It is a moral decision. Then you can stop hating. That is my experience, at least.
And I will share a video. Wait a minute.
Yes.
Just a minute.
Hope in times.
Yeah. I have problem with screen sharing, so I have to. Because
yes.
Yes, I got it. Now I will start the video. I have a technical issues. Then you can just answer a question here, and I will take it. And can you tell about in moral army? They changed their name.
Moral rearmament.
Yeah, moral
armament.
rearmament. They changed their name. Why they do that, and when did they do it?
They changed the name to Initiatives of Change in the year 2000. That is 21 years ago. And I think many people saw moral rearmament as a too narrow kind of moralistic approach. And they felt that Initiatives of Change was more representative of what we were trying to do in the world. So that is why the name was changed.
Okay, just 1 minute. Because as you know, we were going to Clubhouse, not to Zoom, so I wasn't prepared. And if you have a question, you can just read the question, inshallah, and then I will ask it. Okay, and do you hear me, Jens? There is a question here.
Yeah.
It says, why they are saying now we are protecting the human rights if they were killed millions, enslaved, and taking their resources and rights by force?
Who is she talking about? Who's doing this?
The superpower, the Western.
About human rights at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of hypocrisy in all countries. And I think the only hope is not to point the finger at the other and say what hypocrites they are, but to see where I and my country are hypocritical and to begin to clean it up. First in myself and then in my country. And then we may give an example which can be a challenge to the superpowers to end hypocrisy. I agree with you, it is very necessary.
I remember there was in 53 or something, a film from IFC or the modern army. They make film showing how Africans can make resistance. How can, do you remember that film?
Freedom, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
That was about Nigerian freedom. No.
Yeah, can you tell a little bit about that film so
Well,
people know how they can find it? Wait,
no. Yes, well, it was a film about the inside conditions in Nigeria, who were under British occupation, fighting for freedom, but their weakness was the division of two African leaders who were both fighting for freedom, but they were so divided among themselves, and their people in Nigeria were so divided that it paralyzed their independence struggle. And this film tells the story about how these two Nigerian leaders were reconciled and how it made their struggle for Nigeria's independence much more effective. That is the film.
I will give the floor somebody. Just wait a minute. And Nadifa, you can find it if you go to the website IOFC then you will just go and find the films. They have a lot of films about different production. They have had 75 years. Okay, can you just unmute you, please, and take Ghali. I'm trying to give you, but you are not taking. You have to open when I ask you to open your mic.
While we are waiting for Khali, can I ask a question?
Oh, thank you, Shamsa. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I would like to ask the professor about reconciliation. I know Norway had an enemy from outside occupying it, and it was Germany. But in my own country, we have had a civil war.
Yeah.
What is the best way to make a reconciliation among one nation who has fought it among itself?
Oh. Well, I think there are no panaceas how to deal with division and hatred. I think the first thing is to face it if I have some part of the hatred or the bitterness in my own life. And I think you just need to ask your conscience and God or Allah, if you believe in Him, is there something in me where I am part of the division in my country and not part of reconciliation? And I asked this question and I got clear answers. And I think to listen in quiet, then God will tell you how you can act to bridge the differences within your own country. Yeah.
You can continue, Shamsa, a little bit.
I shall continue.
Shamsa.
Yes. Well, I realized that it's the same thing in my family as in my nation. And I had a very bad relationship to my sister. Everything she said irritated me. And I couldn't understand why it was so. And then one day in my time of quiet, I had a very clear idea. You're just jealous of your sister. You would like all the love and attention for yourself. And I apologized to her for my jealousy, and we became friends. And I think on that basis, we could also do something against the divisions and hatred around us in our city and in our nation. Lul, are you there?
Oh, Kali, can you give me back my host?
Thank you, Lul. Now I am unmuted.
Okay, thank you, Kali. Jens, I was trying to give the mic my colleague, and then I lose my administration, so she got it. I couldn't speak. I was listening, but I couldn't speak. Kali, do you hear me now? Kali, if you can talk, please make me the host. So I can manage the program. And okay, and we will continue. I will not mute myself because I don't know, maybe she is not beside the computer. Shamso, can you call, please, Ghali? I will send the number. And there is a question, and that question says, what you can call those who invaded a country and then gave that part of land and gave that part of land to neighboring countries, for example, NFD, that colonied by British. Yeah, the question is, in Somalia, and there was the Italian colony, and there was a British colony, and there was a French colony. And the British colony, what they did is they take one part and gave to the Ethiopian territorium, and the other part to Kenyan territorium. So those two parts is still in Kenya and Ethiopia. So that this question is saying, what do you call when a power come and they gave your land to other country, and there is still.
Well, that's imperialism, isn't it?
What do you say?
Imperialism.
Yeah. Because there is still a problem because of that. And Ujeeddada is in Ethiopia, and NFD is in Kenya. And both is Somali people.
Yes.
And Somali territorium. but
Yes.
today is the Kenyan territorium and Ethiopian territorium
Yes.
because of 1884.
Yeah,
So
because of
that's
the
that
action of-
question. The second question is also the British colonists did not respect the people who wanted to unite with their fellow Somalis. What would you call them? I don't want to ask that question. Can you formulate? Can you ask another question? You know what you can call them. That's one question, and you will get one word. maxaad ugu
imperialism.
yeeraysaa markaad tiraahdo magacuun baa lagu sheegayaa laakiin maanta maxaa laga qaban karaa su-aashaada maanta ku sale maantaan joognaa anagu ma joogna 60kii iyo 50kii iyo 40kii adoo mahadsan aad baa umahadsan tahay su-aalaha way wanaagsan yihiin laakiin su-aalo xiran baad keenaysaa oo ha ama mayale lagu dhahaayo su-aasha waxaa fiican inaad keento su-aal qofkii ka soo saaraysa taariikh iyo sheeko oo furan hadda imperialism unbu ku yiri sababtoo su-aashaadii baa ahayd what do you call okay gabadha maxaa la yidhaahdo yiri waaye luul baan ku eri marka and Jens, we will conclude soon. So what I want to hear is today people who is listening, how can they find information about initiative of change? Can they take contact with the management?
Yes.
And how can they do that?
Yes.
And how can they find your book? How can they buy your book?
Well, they can take contact or order the book via my email. And my email is jjwilhelmsen, gmail.com.
I think we can see people who want, they can contact me, then they will get it if they are interested.
That's the best way. That's the best.
That's the best because I don't want to have 100 people to contact you.
No, that's good.
No, they can contact me and you can send to me and I can send to them.
Oh, that's fine.
That's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Khalid, are you back? No. Okay. That's fine. The last question I will ask, and then I will say thank you to you.
Yeah.
Okay. This question is saying, colonial partition and imperialism is the root cause of the conflict in Somalia. How we overcome to console the dole of our people? So the question is, how can we change now? The question is, all the roots, all the conflict in Somalia is because of imperialism. What can we do today so we can come back and be together?
Yeah. Well, I think it's the same thing as with France and Germany. You have to start with the wrongs you yourself are responsible for, or your population group is responsible for. And I realized two things. One thing was bitterness. There was some bitterness in me, and towards Germany, and I had to apologize. And for me, it meant going to Germany and living there for 5 years and working with the Germans to build up their country after the destruction of the war. So that is one step. And the other is to have a vision a vision for a united country. You know, Europe has started integrating in the European Union, starting with France and Germany, but we need a bigger vision of all of Europe coming together and learning to make decisions together, to live together, and to love each other, and to see a common task for all sections of Europe. And I think if you ask your inner voice or God to give you a concept of a common task for all population groups, you will be shown and given a vision of the steps how to move towards making it real.
What? Oh, shit. Okay. Just 1 minute, Jens. We will
Yes.
finish soon.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
No, I got back my administration, because if I go and mute myself, I couldn't come back on open, you know, because my colleague was the moderator and she went out. But now we can, I will try to find Irena. Do you remember the title in that film? So I can share. I will just think. I will try to find it. Hadda waxaan siin karaa marka adinka dadkiina waa idin aqaanaa inaa mayga ka soo bixi kartiin. Okay, qofkii raba su'aal weydii kara marka. gacanta lee taago si aan hal mar u wada hadlin insha allah. Please, the taariikhdii horeeto yaan waqti lagu dhuminin maanta iyo xalka u baahanaa. Wuu sheegay reconciliation meeshuu ka bilaabanayo wuxuu ku dhahay naftaadu ka bilaabanaya. Inta aan nacayb u qabto iska cafi. Adigoo qof nacayb u qabo dan ma samayn kartid in aad nabadayn samaysid. So adig iska bilaabaa lagu dhahay marka. Kali, you can take over now and ask your question. Unmute yourself. Welcome, Kali.
I think Kali is having some difficulties.
Yeah, I think she is struggling with the system.
Can I say something while we're waiting?
Yeah, you can say and you can ask. I will find that film before we end the meeting.
Yes. First of all, I would really like to thank you for your time today. One of the most important things that I have learned from this lesson, this interview today, is that everything has to start within oneself.
Yes.
Before you try to heal others or start reconciliation, you have to start with yourself.
Yes.
And that is it's fantastic way of making it, because if I go back to our country and the way we have struggled with peace building and reconciliation processes, we have had like 16 major reconciliation processes or meetings.
I see.
And we are still struggling. So I think the lesson is to change the perspective, and instead of expecting someone else doing it, you have to start with yourself.
Yes.
The healing has to come from one and from within.
Yes.
And that's really an eye-opening. I hope everybody who is listening this, and also everybody who will watch us on YouTube, because I know this is live on YouTube. We will learn from this, and we will start thinking and start within ourselves. So I wanted to thank you so much. I love Norway. I live myself in Denmark.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. And when I came to Denmark, I had a Danish host family, and my Danish mom, she was from Norway.
Oh, yes.
So Norway has been a pioneer in peace building many places in the world. So
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much for what you said.
Is there anything else that you have in mind that you would like to share with us, or any last comments, or anything that you think is important for those who are struggling with civil war and post-civil war reconciliation and peace building?
No, there is a saying, as I am, so is my nation.
Mm.
And I think you have to try to identify within yourself in what way concretely you are part of the sickness in your nation instead of part of the cure.
Mm.
And I think if you ask that question sincerely and ask God to show you, you will discover not only how you can start cleaning up that thing in yourself, but also how you can begin to do something about it in your nation and on your side of conflicts. So I think this is no panacea. I'm not underestimating the depth of feeling or the depth of injustices that have been done. But this is what I myself have experienced as a concrete way leading towards solutions.
Yes. You know, I have always thought about and admired how the Japanese people, they moved forward after Hiroshima and Nagasaki and after the atom bomb. And I have always wondered, how can they forgive and move on?
Yeah. Well, you know, Japanese were very cruel in the war, in the occupation of China. In 50 years of rule of Korea, which was total annihilation of the Korean nation. They were not allowed to speak their own language. So I think if you face the sins of your own group and your own nation, you will see that we're all more or less equally guilty of something. And we have to start cleaning up where we are with the things which are before my own door. This is my conclusion.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think Lul is coming back soon. There are we are waiting for Lul to come back.
Oh,
she
yes.
was struggling with the technicalities.
She has withdrawn, I see. Anyway, it's nice to meet you. Yeah.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, well, I'm glad to share my own experience.
How does it feel to belong to a country that's so peaceful and so progressive as Norway?
I don't think it's so progressive. I think Norway is in the grip of money. And if we don't discover how much we put money before people, we will have trouble in the future. So we're quite spoiled as a nation in Norway now.
Yes.
Yes. And your solidarity with the rest of the world goes down if you. Yes, Lul again.
Yeah. Thank you. I will just give somebody's, okay, everyone. Thank you. Maulid, I will open for you. Just open your mic. I'm asking that if you like to, you are not obligated to do that.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much, Lul. And I believe that was a very quite interesting topic or debate or discussion. But I'm very sorry for that because I'm a very late comer, and I had I haven't heard a lot. I wasn't part of.
Maulid, I can update you.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much.
Jens, he had in almost his life is 75 years as a young boy. He started to be part of a movement to be part of the reconciliation, and rebuilding of the wall, actually, 3 continents. It's Asia, Japan was part of, and Europe that Germany was part of. Today, as you know, Europe is European Union. They wouldn't come so long if Germany wasn't included after World War II. So Jens wrote a book about his life and what he says has been with. So he's just our guest tonight and telling us his experience. So yeah, that's what's going on.
Wow, thank you very much, Lul. Thank you, Andreas. That's a very quite interesting biography. And I think all we need in Somali is also a reconciliation. That's what I've been trying for a long time, but we have reached nothing so far. And also the last, I think, 10 years, it was a little bit better. The situation in Somalia was getting better than before, but still we are not in a situation that we can hold a free and fair elections, because all the problems is based on politics and instability. So what I'm also quite in what I would also like to know is I think I heard many times, and I read some articles about how the intervention in Somalia from the international community or foreign countries is high because of its natural sources, and also because of its long way cost. So I heard about Somalia and Congo, which is also very rich when it comes to natural sources like a diamond, are very unstable because of their natural sources. And that's what causes the intervention from the international partners. Sometimes I can say like that. Do you believe that's also true? Have you heard my question, or can I repeat it again?
I didn't get your question.
Yeah, and what I'm trying to say is Somalia is a very rich when it comes to natural sources, and Congo, which is located in somewhere in West Africa, is also very rich when it comes to natural sources like diamonds.
Yes.
And they are both they are both unstable. They are not stable when it comes to the security and the government or administrations. So the people are saying because there's a lot of intervention from the other world because of their natural sources. So do you believe that is something which can be true?
Well, I don't know what to say about that. Norway has the oil, and it has done us a lot of good, made us very rich. I don't think it has made us more responsible for each other, for our nation, or for the world. Money has made us more self-centered and more materialistic. So what is the answer to that? This is what I think we need to work on. Thank you.
Thank you. We will finish now, so we can just conclude. What will you conclude after our session today? I'm so sorry that we couldn't have you in Clubhouse because all these technical issues wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And if I plan it from the start to be assumed, we could have a good one without the interfering system because it was rushed, you know. So I'm so sorry for that. And I'm happy you are with us, and I'm thankful for your time and for your for you actually.
Yeah.
So you can just take a few minutes just to tell us what you want to conclude. Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
And
thank
sorry,
you.
Lul, before you conclude, please, I would like to know what's the name of the book.
And that the name is of the book, I have it. Jens, can you just show it? Jens, are you there? Okay.
We can see it, Lul. Yes, it's showing us. It's called Eyewitness to the Impossible.
Yeah, but what happened to Jens?
Yeah,
he's showing the book.
Very much.
Okay, why I'm not seeing that?
I don't know, but I can see him.
I'm just seeing Maulid, not Jens.
You have to now.
That's really cute. Okay. Happy to know that. Thank you. And you can just conclude, Jens, and then we finish.
Well, I think we must see our situation and our divisions as part of the divisions which are in the world and which threaten the peaceful future of the world. And we must see our countries, Norway, Somalia, as pioneers for a different world. And this is worth giving your life. Otherwise, mankind may well end up destroying themselves. But if there is a better way, I'm convinced of it. And if we take it up and fight for it, God will bless what we do and give us a better world. Thank you.
Thank you, Jens.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I will call you. So you can just end the conversation and you are free to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much and have a nice weekend.
Thank you. Same to you. I hope we can meet one day if you're in Norway.
She will be, and I will take her to you. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Goodbye, Jens.
Thank you, Lul, for arranging it.
And walaalayaal waxa waa mataqaanaa sheekadana waxay ku socotaa isbeddel ma rabtaa adiga isbeddel nacaybka kugu jira iska bixi inta nacayb adiga
ah waxaan jeclaan lahaa ka dhaxgale follow up nooga samee club house sababta meeshasaan ka wada hadlaynaa
haye saasaan ku gabagabaynaynaa marka waay maadaama xagga dad badanaa ka sugaya moogtaa ciladu waxay ka dhacday taleefankiisa si kastaan yeelna waan keeni weyna club house marka intaan baajin lahayn intaan keenna
wax badan aan ka faa'iidaystay
marka xaggan tagaynaa kan waa joojinayaan okay
bye
bye